But due to the reform agenda of the present regime in Indonesia, Indonesia has become much more relevant and important to invest in for Swedish companies.
Kunjungan kenegaraan Kerajaan Swedia ke Indonesia turut membawa 30 perwakilan perusahaan terbesar dari negara Nordik ini. Pertemuan delegasi bisnis dari Swedia ini di Indonesia ini didukung oleh Dewan Perdagangan dan Investasi Swedia. Produser lapangan CNN Indonesia Manggar Fatani mewawancari CEO dan Presiden Dewan Perdagangan dan Investasi Swedia, Ilva Berg.
I'm going to ask you some questions about the delegation business meeting we have today. The first question is, I heard that about 88% of Swedish companies plan general investment in Indonesia in the coming 3 years. So can you tell me the range of industries that these companies are interested in, and how much is the total investment that you're going to have in Indonesia?
Well, we have a pretty big delegation with us this time. They represent a revenue value of approximately $300 billion in yearly revenues. And they represent areas, everything from infrastructure, both physical and digital infrastructure, like building harbors, airports, railroads, and things like that, but also telecommunication, obviously. But also the latest technologies within manufacturing technologies for doing machinery and tooling. But I also have companies with me who are interested in supplying to the growing middle class in Indonesia, all type of consumable products, but also healthcare and education. So it's a very wide spread of the companies that are here.
Can you tell me how much is the total investment that you're going to plan in investing in Indonesia?
That's very difficult to tell because it's very much up to the companies. But what we can see is that during the last 10 years, Swedish companies have not invested as much as they should have in Indonesia if you look at the market potential in Indonesia. But due to the reform agenda of the present regime in Indonesia, Indonesia has become much more relevant and important to invest in for Swedish companies. So we see a huge gap between the actual investments that have been taking place and where we think that Swedish companies should be. And I think that I'm not exaggerating if I say that it's a factor of maybe 50 or even 100 if we're looking the next coming 5 to 10 years.
And until 2017, more than 60% of Swedish companies have been invested in Indonesia. What do you think the impact that this company brought to Indonesia's economy?
Well, it depends on what type of company we're looking at, obviously. But Swedish companies, they are global companies because the Swedish economy is very small, so we have to be global. And we bring a business tradition, a way of doing business that includes technology transfer, knowledge transfer, but also a joint plan for developing together.
Last question, what is the challenge that the Swedish government and the Swedish companies face while investing in Indonesia?
This is an enormous country, really, and I believe the business opportunities are really grand, but it's also a country where you are very developed in certain areas, and I think that the development process will go very much more rapid than it did in our country. But when it comes to infrastructure, for example, that will be a challenge, but also the level of bureaucracy, even if it has improved dramatically during the last few years, it's still probably going to be a challenge. And that are two of the big hurdles that we see that we will have to deal with. But at the same time, it's a big population, it's a growing middle class, and we see this very ambitious program for making investments, and we think it's a very fascinating country to be in.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Silverberg, for having us.
Thank you so much for